Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about Liz Cheney, blunt language, Mike Johnson, and something Americans need to pay attention to. On the heels of Liz Cheney reminding the Democratic Party that no, her dad was not actually a friend to the Democratic Party, and by extension, reminding the Democratic Party that she herself was a very right-wing figure, she continued her trend of remaining a right-wing Republican, an actual Republican, not in the sense of party, but in the sense of believing in the American Republic. You know, that thing that many in the Republican Party abandoned. She had a conversation on Meet the Press that had some chilling warnings for Americans. Her overall message was to beg the American people, and Republicans specifically, to remember that, quote, "We did not have a peaceful transfer of power in 2021. She painted a vivid picture of the possibility of a repeat performance and the possibility of the loss of the American experiment by talking about specific points. First, her comments on Speaker Johnson need to be framed around the fact that she does, quote, "not have faith that Mike Johnson will fulfill his constitutional obligations." That's the top line right there. Everything else she said about him needs to be viewed through that lens. She supported this position in a number of ways, asking Americans to look back. She said, quote, "If you just look at what he did in 2020, he knew, and he knew with specificity that the claims of fraud that Donald Trump was making and that he was repeating, he knew those to be false. We had very clear and specific conversations about that. He knew that courts had specifically found that those claims were false. He knew they weren't true." Cheney is deeply concerned that Congress will attempt to undermine the American people and refuse to certify a Trump loss. Talking more about the Speaker, she said, quote, "He has a record, repeatedly, of doing things that he knows to be wrong. He knows to be unconstitutional in order to placate Donald Trump." We need to remember that Johnson has not yet committed to certifying the election regardless of who wins. Sure, when asked, you get the soundbite of him saying yes. But what a lot of the soundbite omits are his next words, quote, "if the election is free and fair and legal." Placating Trump in the exact way Cheney described, by echoing his baseless claims and rhetoric. Turning her attention to the Republican Party leadership as a whole and painting a picture of dysfunction, paralysis, and to use her word, cowardice. She said, "that they are willing to perpetuate his lies at the expense of their duty to the Constitution tells you something about the real damage that's been done to the Republican Party." A lifelong Republican from a Republican powerhouse family had this through line during her comments. Quote, "I think it's very important that the Republicans not be in the majority in the House come January 2025. She's telling Americans in no uncertain terms that the part of the Republican Party that hasn't fallen under Trump's sway either will not or cannot stop him, so they can't be reelected. Speaking of Trump, she said, quote, "He will not respect the rulings of our courts, and people have to realize our courts can't enforce their own rulings. So if a president refuses to carry out his obligations to do so, then we are no longer a nation of laws." She talked about the people Trump would put in power and then warned Americans that, quote, "the people that stopped him from his worst desires last time around won't serve again." She was talking about Trump and was asked about a quote attributed to General Milley in a Woodward book. According to the book, Milley described Trump as a, quote, "fascist to the core." She said, quote, I have tremendous respect for General Milley, and I see no reason to disagree with that assessment. She has no reason to disagree with the idea that Trump is a fascist to the core. Republicans have now taken the line that there was a peaceful transfer of power because he left on the 20th. I think Cheney, like most of us, wonders what would have happened if those who stormed the Capitol on the 6th were successful in carrying out their various chants. Would they still call it a peaceful transfer of power? The warnings in this interview might echo through history. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.